will never leave your husband alone because he's my bestie.
I was the side chick in my own marriage. My husband was more in love with his female best friend than he was with me. For Valentine's Day, he bought her diamonds, flowers that said, "You are the only woman who understands me," and a brand new iPhone. He bought me a blender. And I did nothing. I stayed quiet. I accepted everything until he made a decision that ruined my life. But before I tell you my story, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any videos. And comment where you are watching from. I want to know which part of the world my story has reached. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anyone watching from a distance would have thought the wedding was unfolding exactly as it should. But they would be wrong. The bride stood alone, hands folded, staring as her husband danced with a woman in white who wasn't her. He was dancing with his female best friend. To understand how a bride could stand alone at her own wedding and watch another woman dance with her husband as if they were the ones married, we have to go back. Clara's friends often said, "If anybody quiet past you, their life don't spoil." Because that was exactly who she was. Soft-spoken, meek, and non-confrontational. She too gentle. She knew they shout. If she went to a restaurant, paid for jollof rice and turkey, and was instead served pounded yam and egusi, she wouldn't complain. She'd stay at the plate for a moment, then shrug and think, "Well, I haven't eaten this in a while." At work, when colleagues dumped extra tasks on her or blamed her for mistakes that weren't hers, Clara simply smiled and took it. She stayed late, carried the burden, and said nothing, because saying something meant conflict, and conflict was something she had been trained to avoid. That training came from her mother. A good woman, she was told, should be soft, meek, and mostly silent, especially in marriage. Marriage in her mother's eyes was the most important achievement a woman could have. So when David asked for Clara's hand, her mother was overjoyed. "Whatever you do," she told her, "do everything you can to keep him." So when Clara entered the relationship and realized she was not just with David, but with David and Linda, she didn't say anything. She was, as always, the non-confrontational Clara. David, in his early 30s, was already a senior manager in an oil firm, sharp at work but careless with emotions. He loved being admired by two women and enjoyed the contrast between Clara, the quiet wife, and Linda, the vibrant friend. He always reassured Clara she was the one he loved, but his actions toward Linda told a different story. As for the infamous Linda, she and David had met around the same time as Clara. Everyone expected David to choose her. Linda matched his personality perfectly. Loud, confident, exciting. So when he chose Clara instead, his friends were shocked. Privately though, they would joke that Linda was the real wife and Clara was just the backup actress in a very long Nigerian rom-com. If marriage is hard enough with two people, imagine when there were three. Especially when the one treated like the wife wasn't even legally married. Linda always found a reason to show up. Dinner dates, she'd coincidentally be at the same restaurant and slide into the chair beside David. Casual Sundays at home, she'd appear, bored and needing company. David arriving from a long trip, Linda would be there to pick him up, claiming she just missed her friend. One Valentine's Day, David bought Linda diamonds, a brand new iPhone, and a bouquet of flowers with a note that read, "To the only woman who understands me." He got Clara a blender. When she questioned it, David laughed it off, saying she wasn't materialistic anyway. Besides, she was always complaining that they needed a blender. And all the while, Clara watched. She said nothing, but was slowly dying inside. Linda would also casually drop inappropriate jokes like it was nothing, teasing David about things Clara wasn't meant to hear. "David, marriage has really tamed you. If it were me living here, this place would never be this quiet. And I'm not just talking about talking and laughing." Clara's stomach would twist, and she'd glance at David expecting him to stop it, but he'd just laugh along. "Don't worry, babe," he'd say. "She's joking." It wasn't even Linda's jokes that hurt the most. It was David's laughter, his excuses, his constant insistence that it was harmless and that Clara shouldn't take it seriously. Clara continued to suffer in silence, carrying the weight of a marriage where her own voice was irrelevant. She didn't know that every silence has an expiration date, and soon she would be forced to speak everything she'd been holding in, and by then, it might already be too late. It was David and Clara's anniversary. In the days before it, David was barely home, always busy, always unavailable. Clara said nothing, as usual. She decided to make the day special on her own. David sent only a simple happy anniversary text that morning, but Clara took it as enough. She planned a candle-lit dinner, cooking dishes she knew he loved, setting the table with care, hoping the evening might pull them back to each other. When the door opened, her hope deflated instantly. David walked in with Linda beside him, arm hooked casually around his, like she belonged there. David noticed Clara's expression and rushed to explain. He said they ran into each other on the way, that Linda's mother was around and she was trying to avoid her, and that he thought it would be fine if she just ate dinner with them. Linda smiled. Clara felt the word no rise in her throat, but she swallowed it, nodded, and said yes. David glanced at the table, finally noticing the candles. "Oh, were you planning something?" Clara looked at him, stunned. "Yes," she said quietly. "It's our anniversary. I wanted us to have a nice dinner." "How cute," Linda said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I hope you made enough food for 3. She walked over and took the seat beside David's, patting it deliberately while locking eyes with Clara. David laughed, completely oblivious, and announced he would take a quick shower before they ate. "Do you want company?" Linda asked lightly. The room fell silent. "What?" she added with a shrug. "It's not like it's anything I haven't seen before." Clara tried to speak, but before she could finish a sentence, David cut her off. "It's just a joke, Clara. You know how Linda is." He nudged Linda playfully and walked away. When they finally ate, the silence seemed to belong only to Clara. David and Linda laughed, shared inside jokes, reminisced about things she wasn't part of. Each laugh felt like a knife twisting deeper into her chest. Still, she said nothing. Then Linda smiled at her. "The food is nice," she said sweetly. "I can tell you tried to impress David, but next time you should ask me for my recipe. This asson is a bit dull. David likes mine better, don't you?" David hesitated, then shrugged. "I mean, yours is better," he said. Then looked at Clara. "No offense." "Maybe," Clara murmured. "If you don't like the food, you shouldn't have come to a dinner you weren't invited to." Linda laughed. "Wow, look at gentle Clara. You finally found your voice." "I just wanted one evening with my husband," Clara said, her hands shaking. "Alone." David snapped at Clara. "Why are you acting like a jealous brat? You brought another woman into our house on our anniversary. How did you expect me to feel?" "Oh, please," David scoffed. "You act like you're some saint. Meanwhile, your colleagues are always smiling at you every time I come to pick you up." "Are you serious right now?" Clara said, disbelief flooding her voice. Linda watched quietly, smiling into her glass. "You act like you are perfect, like some innocent victim. Everyone thinks I am the bad guy because you are always quiet, always moping." Linda stepped in, fake concern dripping from her voice. "David, calm down. It's not that serious." "No," he shouted, slamming his fist on the table. Clara panicked. This was what she feared. Conflict, chaos, blame. She rushed to placate him, apologizing, begging him to calm down, even though she wasn't sure what she was apologizing for. "I need to leave," David said suddenly. He packed a small bag while Clara followed him, pleading through tears. He ignored her completely. When he walked back into the dining area, he said 3 words that shattered her. "Linda, let's go." Linda's surprise quickly melted into a smile. She glanced at Clara. Nothing personal. Outside, Clara chased after them, confused and desperate. David told her he wasn't asking for a divorce, that he needed space, that she had ruined the evening, and Linda calmed him down. He got into the car, Linda beside him. As they drove away, the last thing Clara saw was Linda's arm draped over David's shoulder, and her smile, wicked and victorious. Clara spent 3 days alone in the house. In those 3 days, she called David endlessly. He never picked up. At first, she was angry. Then the anger faded, replaced by worry. She hadn't eaten much since he left. Maybe that was why she felt lightheaded, or so she thought. The room spun. Her knees buckled. She collapsed. A neighbor who saw her fall rushed her to the hospital. Clara awoke under bright lights, a dull ache pounding in her head. A doctor stood beside her bed, calm and reassuring. She had fainted from stress and exhaustion, he explained, something common in early pregnancy. The word stopped everything. "I'm pregnant?" Clara whispered. The doctor nodded. She was about 3 weeks along. The baby was fine. Clara held her stomach like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Back home, the house felt different, heavier. She was carrying David's child, and he didn't even know. She needed to reach him now more than ever. She called again and again, but there was no response. She didn't know that across the city, David was in a hotel with Linda, drinking and laughing, his phone buzzing endlessly on the table. When it rang again, he groaned and complained that Clara wouldn't give him peace. Linda asked for the phone and blocked Clara's number. David looked unsure, but Linda waved it off. If he wanted to clear his head, Clara had to be cut off. After a moment, David agreed. They both clinked glasses, sealing the decision that would keep him from knowing about the baby growing inside his wife. Back home, Clara's fear deepened. She called his friends and family. No one knew where he was. Her thoughts spiraled. What if something had happened to him? While Clara spiraled, fearing the worst, David was on a Lagos beach drinking Martell with Linda. Finally, desperate, she asked David's friend for Linda's number. Linda answered. Clara begged to speak to David. Linda said he didn't want to talk. Clara swallowed her pride and explained that it was important, something he needed to know. Linda paused. Then she offered a solution. David was going to their special spot later that day, a quiet lake reserve. Clara could come early and surprise him. They could talk in person. It felt wrong, but it was her only option. Clara agreed. Before she could ask to speak to David herself, the call ended. When she tried to call back, she realized she had been blocked. Clara arrived at the reserve at night. The forest was thick and dark, split down the middle by a still lake that reflected nothing but shadows. As she sat in her car, she saw Linda standing near the water, waving like this was some friendly meetup and not the worst night of her life. Her chest tightened. Before stepping out, Clara tried to text David again. "David, I know we haven't talked in a while. I'm sorry about everything that happened, but I need to tell you something important. I'm pregnant. Please call me when you see this." To her surprise, the message went through. His WhatsApp photo was visible again. 2 gray ticks appeared, then turned blue. She waited. Nothing. She tried calling. The call failed immediately. Blocked. Again. Clara swallowed hard. How could he block her after that? She locked the car and walked over to Linda. "David is already here," Linda said easily, "on the other side of the lake." Clara froze. "You said we'd get here before him." "I know," Linda replied, "but he came earlier than I expected." Something about the way she said it made Clara uneasy. "Can't you just call him and ask him to come here?" Clara asked. Linda sighed. "My phone's dead. We'll have to take the canoe. It's the only way to go to the other side." Clara stared at the water. Every instinct in her body screamed that this was wrong, but she was exhausted and desperate. They got into the canoe and began rowing across the lake. The water was silent, the air heavy. Halfway across, Linda stopped paddling. "You know he loves me, right?" she said casually. Clara frowned. "What?" Linda turned to her. "David, he loves me, not you." Clara laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "Excuse me?
He chose you because you are gentle, calm, easy to manage, Linda continued. He thought you'd make a good wife, but I'm the one he actually wants. I've always been. Clara stared at her. Then why didn't he marry you? Linda's lips curved into a smile that wasn't kind. Because he knew I wouldn't tolerate half the things you do. Clara felt something crack inside her. So you're waiting around for a man who didn't choose you first? That's sad. Linda's smile vanished. Not as sad as marrying a man who is in love with another woman. He's married to me, Clara snapped. If he really loved you, he wouldn't be. Linda leaned closer. He feels sorry for you. That's all. You're a placeholder. Clara shook her head. This conversation doesn't matter. I'm here to talk to David, not you. Linda laughed. David isn't even here yet. Clara's heart dropped. What? I lied, Linda said calmly. I just wanted you to hear the truth before it ends. I'm done pretending to be just the female best friend. I want what should have been mine from the start. You lured me out here? Whispered Clara. Yes. Anger surged through Clara. Now I know why he didn't marry you. You're crazy. That was it. Linda lunged. Are you mad? Clara shouted as they struggled. You tipped the canoe. Let go of me, Clara screamed. The canoe rocked violently. Then it flipped. Cold water swallowed Clara whole. She surfaced gasping, panic ripping through her body. The water was too deep. She kicked wildly, trying to keep her head above the surface. No, my baby, she thought. Linda was struggling too, screaming for help. Just then, headlights appeared in the distance. David! They both screamed. David came out of his car and walked towards the water. When he saw them, he didn't hesitate. He dove in. For a brief, foolish second, Clara felt relief. Then she saw him swim past her. He went straight to Linda. No! David! Clara cried, choking on water. David reached Linda, lifted her onto his shoulder, and swam her back to shore. He laid her down, holding her face. Are you okay? Can you breathe? He asked urgently. Linda coughed and nodded. Clara was still in the water. David! She screamed, weaker now. Linda turned her head. Clara is still there. David finally looked back, but Clara's strength was gone. Her arms burned, her vision blurred. She fought one last time, not just for herself, but for the life inside her. Then everything went dark. David and Linda sat side by side in the hospital waiting area, heads bowed. Linda's fingers were laced through his, grounding herself more than him. When the doctor finally approached, David stood up immediately. Linda rose with him, tightening her grip on his hand. She's awake, the doctor said. Relief rushed through David so fast it made him dizzy. But then he noticed the doctor's sad expression. His stomach dropped. She's stable, the doctor continued, but she lost the baby. The words hit him like a physical blow. The baby, David whispered. She was really pregnant. He hadn't meant to say it out loud. The doctor looked at him for a brief, unreadable moment. Then she walked away. David released Linda's hand and started toward the hallway. David, wait, Linda said. Don't you want me to come with you? No, he replied quietly, without turning back. Just go home. Clara lay on the hospital bed, staring at nothing. She was awake, but she wasn't present. It felt like her entire world had collapsed in a single night, and she was trapped in the wreckage, unsure where to even begin processing the loss. She didn't notice David enter until he was standing beside her bed. The air shifted, thick, suffocating. Clara, David said softly, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. I thought you just said you were pregnant so we'd start talking again. I never imagined you were serious. She didn't look at him, didn't blink. He sat down. Please, talk to me. Silence. David slid off the bed and knelt beside the bed. Clara, I'm begging you. Insult me, yell at me, tell me how stupid I am, because I feel like the biggest fool in the world right now. Just say something. She finally spoke. We're getting a divorce once I leave this bed. Her voice was flat, no emotion, no tremor. David jerked upright. No, please, we can't divorce. I'm sorry for tonight. I. Clara cut him off, her voice steady but cold. David, this isn't about tonight. This is about everything. This marriage has been a humiliation ritual for me since the day I said I do. You've shown me time and time again that I was never your first choice. And maybe I'm not Linda's biggest fan, but she was right about one thing today. You only married me because you thought you could control me. Even drained from the night's events, a weight lifted as Clara spoke. For the first time, she let herself voice the truth she had held inside. I can't even blame you for tonight, she continued softly, because I know it was a difficult choice. But still, the woman you saved second was carrying your child. If you had saved me sooner, that baby would still be alive. But I'm not blaming you. I should be thanking you for saving me. And I'm not blameless in this mess of a marriage either. I stayed silent while you disrespected me all this time. I allowed it. David's face crumpled. I swear, I didn't know about the pregnancy. And Linda and I didn't sleep together when I left on our anniversary. I would never... Clara's laugh was bitter, cutting him off. You wouldn't do that, but you did everything else. You emotionally betrayed me for years. You constantly chose Linda. And now, I understand the dinner outburst. You fabricated drama to run off with Linda. You made me feel like it was my fault. But I won't be pushed anymore. Tonight, I lost more than our baby. I lost my old self. David's voice trembled. Please, I love you. Clara held up her hand. What you are feeling is guilt, not love. We're getting a divorce. It's final. I'm done. The words struck him harder than anything else she had ever said. He stood there, stunned, seeing clearly the fire in her eyes. This was no longer the Clara he could push around. She was unshakable. Finally, he bowed his head, the weight of loss pressing down on him, and stepped away. After Clara was discharged from the hospital, she checked into a hotel. She couldn't bear to see anyone. She needed silence. She needed space to grieve, not only the baby she had lost, but the life she had imagined, the woman she had been inside that marriage. In her solitude, she made a promise to herself. Never again would she stay quiet to keep the peace. The divorce came soon after. It was quiet, no dramatic court appearances, just documents mailed back and forth. David made it difficult at first, delays, excuses, but when he realized Clara wasn't going to bend, he finally agreed. Only after everything was finalized did Clara go to see her mother. It was a big moment. Her mother had always valued her marriage to David, but Clara wasn't living for expectations anymore. We're divorced, she said plainly. Her mother reacted the way Clara expected, shock, anger, disbelief, but then Clara told her everything about Linda, about the neglect, about being chosen last again and again, about how that final choice had cost her her child. Her mother broke down. She hadn't known. She hugged Clara tightly and told her the truth, that it would take time for her to understand everything, but that no matter what, she loved her daughter, with or without a husband. Slowly, Clara began to take her voice back. At work, when people tried to dump extra responsibilities on her or blamed her for mistakes that weren't hers, she pushed back. That's not my fault. That's not in my job description. I'm not being paid extra for this. People were shocked. Some were irritated. Others were quietly impressed. Clara is growing wings, someone said. She just smiled. David's life moved in the opposite direction. Once everything was over, the weight of his actions settled fully on him. He saw, clearly now, how he had taken advantage of Clara's quietness, how he had disrespected his marriage over and over again, how one decision, had changed everything forever. He and Linda never spoke again after the hospital. She tried to reach him relentlessly until he changed his number. The house felt wrong, empty, but he couldn't leave it. It was the only place where Clara's presence still lingered. The irony wasn't lost on him. Only after losing her did he truly understand what he had. Years passed. Clara blossomed. She became confident, outspoken, grounded in herself. She co-founded a foundation with a few friends, a support network for women who had experienced pregnancy loss, a space for grief without shame, for healing without silence. One evening, she attended the foundation's charity ball, and that was when she saw him. Their eyes met across the room, and Clara felt nothing. No pain, no anger, no longing, no regret. David looked at her and saw the woman he had lost forever. Clara looked at him like a chapter she had already closed. She turned and walked past him, and that destroyed him.
Thank you so much for watching. What did you learn from this story? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We remain African Folktale Nation, bringing you the most exciting African folktales, both modern and ancient.